pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Someone sent me a very long email that is very... trying to teach me a new word. Realitize. Sounds like it might be a good one, actually. Realitize. He says, I want to share this word with you that no one else I've used it in front of has ever heard of. Realitize. To realitize something means to make it sterile, soulless, and to do it so in a self-absorbed, narcissistic way. Where do you think this is going? Strangely, this is referring to my saying that Starbucks was going to start selling alcohol. And the emailer goes on, to me, Starbucks is an example of a realitized coffee house. Okay, I got it. I have never personally liked coffee, but when I was living on the South Side in my late teens, he's writing this from Phoenix, by the way, I used to go almost every day to a great coffee house called the Beehive. Oh, sure. Right after I moved down there, Starbucks opened a store across East Carson from the Beehive. As far as I know, it didn't hurt the Beehive at all. I don't think so. Beehive's still going fine. I met a lot of interesting characters there, learned about myself through those people. 13, 14 years later, I still keep in touch with some of them. I don't think any of the poseurs, yuppies, 30K millionaires I've seen in Starbucks has ever even talked to me. I have to tell you, I have only been in a Starbucks once myself, and that was to meet somebody they had asked to meet at a Starbucks. I am opposed to Starbucks, too. And, okay, if this is what they do, realitize things, I'm against them. I'm against them because I don't like these slick chains knocking wonderful, local mom-and-pop places out. And there is no doubt. I mean, I know exactly what this guy's talking about. The Beehive is a true coffee shop, and it is true. People would interact in there. This guy made friends in there. He doubts he would have made friends in a Starbucks. Now, some of you Starbucks aficionados may disagree with that. Anyway, he goes on to say, I think Sarah Palin realitized politics. When she went rogue, which to me meant she went and did her own thing to benefit herself. And unfortunately, she's still around hawking ghost-written books with her picture on them, spouting off about stuff she doesn't know about, being divisive for the sake of being divisive. Reality shows are all about giving the characters an opportunity to make names for themselves, get attention for themselves. They really don't make much money. The real compensation they get isn't cash. It's something much more valuable in these days, that's for sure. It's celebrity. It's attention. It's notoriety. It's a brand. So that 2008 campaign was really like Palin's reality show. And that's how she was looking at it. And she took full advantage of it. And you saw in 2012 Michelle Bachmann and even a washed-up Rick Santorum trying to do the same. They knew they weren't going to win. They just wanted the attention and the money that would come from that. He goes on to say, I say that Phoenix, where he lives now, is a realitized city. Just a bunch of subdivisions, gated communities, and shopping centers that happen to be inside the same municipal boundaries. But this would take too long to explain in an email. No, I think you're doing darn good, John. And finally he says, glad you're still on the air, blah, blah, blah. I like to listen on Tuesdays. I'd like to see what your sister says, things about things. After listening to her this week, I wished I had been up at 7 so I could have called in and disagreed with a lot of what she was saying. I don't remember what we were talking about. I'm appreciative of you and your show because it also allows me to keep in touch with what's going on back home. So thanks for that, John in Phoenix. Well, thank you. And I like your word, realitize. And it has, it is, realitize is more like ersatz. It purports to look like the real thing, but it isn't. Yeah, as you said earlier, it's devoid of soul and character, and it's really just about money. I think that's a great word. Thanks for that. And I'm sorry I never said hello to everybody. Hello! I was reading this interesting email when you came knocking. It's Monday, guys. It's the 24th. Those bald eagle eggs are gonna hatch this week. Yeah, I've been thinking about that. So I'm looking a lot at that nest. The mom and dad look like. I wonder if they're aware they're about to hatch. Do you think they can feel like the eggs, like a baby kicking or something, do you think? Wow, probably. Well, here's a sweet story that I want to start with since, we don't want to jump in with both booted feet so early in the week, right off the bat. But I'm trying to get this up. This is a story out of the BBC. It's one of those wonderful stories, and I wish I could show you the picture because the picture is especially wonderful. But it's about two people, both blind, a he and a she, and they both had to go to a training class to get their guide dogs, their seeing eye dogs, because obviously you have to be trained. After the dogs have been trained, you have to be trained to know how to do it. And this is a 2-week course. And one of these people was Claire Johnson, who's 50 years old, and the other is Mark Gaffey, who's 51. And they went to these classes, and it's at these classes that they are paired with a dog, and one of them was paired with a dog named Venice, a Labrador Retriever who's so cute you could die, and the other was paired with a equally adorable Labrador Retriever named Rod. And here's the story behind the story. These two dogs were inseparable throughout their training. And they had been trained since they were puppies. And so this is the point at which they would be separated. Because one's going to somebody here and one's going to somebody there. But for these 2 weeks, they at least were together because they were all in training together. And what happened, it became so clear that these two dogs were so close. They would nuzzle each other and kiss each other and just obviously just in love with each other. And the two who now had them couldn't help but note that they were such good friends. They couldn't necessarily see the nuzzling, but they knew, and others told them. And they started, after they graduated from the class and went their separate ways, they started phoning each other to make play dates so that the two dogs could be together because they just were so clearly missing each other. And so, of course, you're going to get ahead of me here, right? Huh? Right? Yeah. So little by little, because they kept spending so much time together, the bipeds fell in love. And Mr. Gaffey proposed to Ms. Johnson on Valentine's Day. And all four are now together as they were meant to be, best friends and soulmates. So the guide dogs guided them to true love. All right, I dare anybody to top that story for today, huh? Huh? Top that baby. Here, quite on the other side of the scale, here's a story. Boils my blood. It's unfolding next door in Ohio, where a man named Ronald Phillips, he's 40 years old, is scheduled to die at the hand of the state in July. July 2nd is his execution date. And it actually was moved up, not up, back. Would you call it? Yeah, back. He was given a little more time because he asked if the state would allow, before they killed him, if they would allow him to donate his kidney to his mom, who is on dialysis, and potentially, once they killed him, his heart to his sister. Both women apparently in need of these organs. What did the state of Ohio do? They said no. How can you say no? And it's the reason that freaked me out. Ohio officials said Friday that they would deny a condemned, by the way, he killed a child. He's an awful person, but I don't see what that has to do with anything. They would deny a condemned child killer's request to donate organs to his family members. And they said they denied the request because, get this, they did not have enough time for him to undergo the surgery and to recuperate in time for his execution. Mm-hmm. It's stuff like that makes my head hurt. So the state denies this guy's chance to at least help two people before he goes off to the netherworld. But they say the reason is he would still be recuperating from this surgical procedure and hence would not be, I guess, healthy enough for them to kill him. Well, I know more can...
Anyway.
Huh?
He's just gonna...
What the hell difference does it make?
What?
I mean, maybe the protocol for killing somebody on death row is they have to be hale and hearty, otherwise you can't kill them. What? Anyway, so they're going to kill him. And I guess the hell with these other two people, granted his... I mean, I don't see that. The reason they gave is as absurd a reason as what we heard from Ravenstall's attorneys about why he took his computer home. I mean, these kinds of, these kinds of reasons and or excuses simply strain credulity and common sense. Ravenstall, you'll recall, apparently said he had to spirit the computer away because he was afraid if he didn't, that Peduto or someone in his employ would hide the computer and then say it was missing to make him look bad. So he made it go missing so they couldn't say that he had done exactly what, in fact, he had done, so that they couldn't say he had done exactly what he did do to keep them from saying he did. You get it? Hurts my head. And you know how worried I always am about robots. And I've often thought, like, okay, so what would I tell my son about, okay, here are the kinds of jobs that maybe you should be, the areas you should be looking for, because these, as far as we know, cannot be robotized. Because it used to be just blue-collar workers that were put on the dole because their jobs were outsourced to mechanical things. And but then it clearly became clear that white-collar jobs were every bit as vulnerable. But then, I mean, the jobs I figured are craft jobs, that those are probably the safest. But I mean, I'm probably being silly about that. I don't know. Anyway, this is the one I've heard. It turns out that a story in the Los Angeles Times about a week or so ago about a recent event. You recall there was a 4-point-something earthquake in the LA area. Now that's not a biggie, but anything happening there along those fault lines makes everybody remember that they're on a fault line, and it scares the bejeebers out of you. So it was a story and got some attention. And in the place it happened, the LA Times immediately put out something on their, probably on their website immediately. And it turns out that story was written by a robot. It was written by a robot. And this robot's job is exactly to write up any story involving earthquakes. And the robot is called QuakeBot. And the whole algorithm is designed to simply retrieve data from the U.S. Geological Survey Earthquake Notification Service, which tells you, where the little rumblings are going on. And this robot only pays attention to these things when they're a 3.0 magnitude or over. So the bot obviously got busy when this 4-point-something happened about 2 weeks ago, and immediately translated what the data it was given into a text report. The robot then added a map showing exactly where it was, created a headline as well, and sent it on to a copy guy who reviewed it, authorized its publication, and that was it. Robot pulled it off in all of 8 minutes, and it hit the LA Times website. Okay, well, I can see, but the QuakeBot can't interview people and get quotes. Or yes, maybe it could. It turns out that the LA Times has other robots gathering data and writing stories. One does nothing but analyze all the homicide data that comes in and writes the opening for the paper's homicide report. Another reviews all the crimes and arrest reports and notes if any celebrities or high-profile types or interesting stories are in all that police blotter stuff, and pulls those. These are journalist jobs. And so it says here, okay, should all the ink-stained wretches be nervous about this? Well, of course they should. They're already nervous wrecks because the newspapers they work for are downsizing like crazy and, flailing and floundering about for some stable place to figure out how to go on in this technological age. But they say no, this isn't happening right now because the stories that these robots are writing still have to be checked by human beings. So maybe reporters will go down, but editors won't. And also, as I said, at this point, the robots can't interview people or put the stories in context or relate them to others. But certainly those are the kind of things that a robot could do. It's just that these ones aren't programmed to do any of that. So right now, these robots are being looked at as things, as for enhancing a real human journalist's job. Doing the stuff like going through all those homicide reports. And that's actually helpful. Let the robot do that and then hand over what you've got to me and I'll take it from there. So in that regard, yeah, that's true. But that's always how robots get a foothold. Oh, we're just here to help. No, we're just making your life easier. Okay? And they do initially. And then one day, they got your job. Okay. I'm taking a break. I believe our first break of the week, ladies and gentlemen, and here it is.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
Need to get some rest. This is the worst headache ever.
Right arm's all tingly all of a sudden. Must have slept on it last night.
I keep losing my balance. These old bones need some exercise.
Granddaddy, what you just said doesn't even make sense. It sounds like gibberish.
Signs like these could be more than what they seem. They could be a sign of stroke.
Sudden weakness or numbness of the face, arm, or leg.
Sudden trouble with vision in one or both eyes.
Sudden trouble walking or difficulty with balance.
Or a sudden intense headache that comes out of nowhere.
If you or someone you know has any of these symptoms, don't wait. Call 911 immediately. You could make a difference in someone's life, someone you love, maybe even your own.
Time lost is brain lost.
Find out more at powertoendstroke.org. Brought to you by the American Heart Association, American Stroke Association, and the Ad Council.
Pittsburgh City Paper's annual music guide is available now. Pick up one today for a look at music education in city schools. Gary Newman, Ted Pappas, and Hart. Plus, don't miss your chance to win cash in our bracket contest. Pittsburgh City Paper, available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania, and on the web at pghcitypaper.com, your smartphone at citypapermobile.com, and at the iPhone App Store and Google Play.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn at pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
All righty. Here we are, back with you. Here's a little item I got out of USA Today. You know how they do this? They pick one item for every state. They do all the states and give you something that happened in each state. I always find that fun to go through. Usually a total waste of time, but at any rate, here's what made it into today's paper from Pennsylvania. And I didn't see it in any of our papers here. It's out of Hollidaysburg. Says here, a central Pennsylvania school district is debating whether to fire a popular swimming coach at the high school after someone anonymously complained about his job as a bartender at a strip club. Okay, well, right there, I'm thinking, wait a minute. Who would have anonymously claimed he was probably somebody who went to the strip club, recognized he was a bartender, then thought, oh my God, he's the coach of my daughter's swim team. We can't have that. I don't know. But anyway, so now his job that he makes all of $2,530 a year for is in jeopardy. He, yes, is a bartender at a strip club, and he does that, obviously, because $2,530 is not enough to live on, so he needs another job. That's a job he has. And, believe it or not, he has a third and a fourth part-time job, I believe. This is a guy who's doing what so many others do. He works 4 jobs to make it. And what possible reason could the fact that he's a bartender at a strip club in any way impede his ability to be a swimming coach? He's obviously a hard-working guy who's cobbling things together. Probably works 5,000 hours a week. He probably has no benefits. And here's some anonymous jerk trying to take $2,000 out of his. It's unbelievable. I hate busybodies. I hate people that don't have the courage to state who they are, anonymously told. So anyway, I didn't think Pennsylvania got a good item today. If I had more energy, I'd protest the fact. That's the most important story that happened in the entire Commonwealth of PA over the weekend? Sort of doubt it. Okay, let's see what else I got here. Okay, here's something, again, lighthearted. Oh, those are the kind of lighthearted stuff that people get all hot and bothered about. This is the kind of thing I would never be good at doing myself, but I'm going to be able to cheat because I've got things in front of me. Apparently, some people get into fights around subjects such as, what was the best year for movies ever? I never get into such arguments because, come on. First of all, it's a false category. It also relies on you knowing so much trivia, it's ludicrous. But there are people who do, like, seriously defend certain years as being whatever the confluence of planets or whatever, somehow. And this is Hollywood movies. I mean, or American movies. I mean, everybody was firing on all cylinders or something. So I just want to give you, this is pretty impressive. I'm going to give you a year, and this is the year that, according to this publication, which I cannot even find here, because it's Huffington Post. I don't know who wrote it. What they said the best year for movies was. And it was 1993.
I believe it.
You do? Why? You don't even know.
90s.
Oh, you just love the 90s. Oh, okay. Well, do listen to some of the, what they said were Oscar-worthy movies made that year, 93. The Piano. Great movie. Great movie. Philadelphia. I think that did win Tom Hanks an Oscar, right? Searching for Bobby Fischer. Great movie. Schindler's List, which I think won. It did, right? and The Fugitive. Really? I think The Fugitive is that good? Okay, listen. These are all from 93. Now listen to the comedies. Just the comedies that were all potentially like some of the best ever made in 1993. Groundhog Day. I mean, it's a total classic. I mean, will be one of the best, 100 best. Groundhog Day. Mrs. Doubtfire. Robin Hood Men in Tights. Benny and June, which I love. Wayne's World 2. Dazed and Confused. So I Married an Axe Murderer. Those last three I never saw, and I don't care to. Were those any good, Jess?
I think so.
Okay, but you're easy.
Aw.
Okay, listen to this. One of my favorite movies ever, 93. What's Eating Gilbert Grape? Might be one of the best movies ever. What's Eating Gilbert Grape? Wow. Carlito's Way. Sleepless in Seattle. These are all 93. Rudy, 93. Jurassic Park, The Secret Garden, The Pelican Brief. Okay? And they said a lot of good child movies are made. Free Willy in 93. Rookie of the Year, I don't know. The Sandlot, blah, blah, blah. And then there's some that I definitely look like stupid things, but they've got them down here. Addams Family Values, Coneheads, Super Mario Brothers, and Cool Runnings.
Cool Runnings is a great movie.
Cool Runnings is a great movie. Okay, so that's a pretty impressive list. It is. But, I mean, I don't... In 1 year. That's pretty damn good. It is, isn't it? Because I can tell you, this year I've gone to a lot of movies and there aren't anywhere near that much, like where you'd rave. You'd go to the piano and say to people, you've got to see that. You'd go to Philadelphia and say, you got to see it. You'd go to Searching for Bobby Fischer and Benny and June and Groundhog Day and Carlito's Way and What's Eating Gilbert Grape. And you would say, you've got to see it. I did not say that very much this year. I don't think. So, anyway. That's just to... The only reason people do things like that is to start a fight, right? You know, so people start arguing. Yeah. And, you know, for all I know, this is a very sort of, the films we know, I mean, if like you could go back and it could be 1937 was a better year. You know, but I don't know. Whatever. Did I tell you of a wonderful documentary I saw that you have to see if you haven't seen it? I watched it twice this weekend, and both times was reduced to tears, which is something for me. I think it is so wonderful. It's a documentary. Did I tell Young at Heart? Did I tell you guys about it? Okay, then I should shut up.
I can't remember if you did or not.
Okay. Did I say anything? Young at Heart? Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Yes, the old people.
The old people singing.
The singing.
I might have. If I did, I'm sorry. See, I'm becoming an old person, you know, repeating myself, telling you the same things over and over and over again. What do you do, by the way, with that? You know, like if friends, and it does happen now, friends, my mother, somebody, or you just forget whether they forgot that they told you this. So they tell you again. Do you always say, I know, you told me that? Or do you patiently listen to the rendition when you've already heard it before? Mm-hmm. Jess says, no. You tell them, I know. You've told me before. Mm-hmm. Well, that's because you're young. I'm wondering if when you get older, you just sort of think, oh, because if I say that to them, then they'll worry because they don't remember telling me, and then they'll think they're getting Alzheimer's, and so And I'm pretty good at reacting with great surprise to something that I already know because you told me yesterday about it. But I don't know if that's the right thing to do. Maybe it depends on It depends on the situation, the person, and all that, and your relationship, and all that. But okay, that's all I got there. I'm ticking stuff off here. Hang on. Now to my main squeeze. That'd be Frank, the Pope. Pope Francis, I love him. So he's gone and said something that I have to tell you, I do not remember another Pope saying. And maybe they did. I mean, after all, I'm watching this guy a lot more closely because I like him so much. But there is the Pope sitting there most of the time he's in two countries at once. Well, he's in two countries. He's in the Vatican. It's a country, supposedly. It's sort of like corporations are people. The Vatican's a country. And Italy is, of course, another country where the Vatican is. And the Pope, Italy is the home of the mafia. And the mafia in Italy has, been a presence there for a long, long time. And they got a lot of blood on their hands. And they've corrupted government there and all kinds of other stuff. Anyway, I don't recall a Pope ever really saying much about it. But this Pope did this weekend. And he talked directly to the mafia. And he said to him, "Your blood-stained money, your blood-stained power, you can't bring it with you to your next life. Repent!" And it says here that this is not something the Pope has generally done. Certain priests in Italy have spoken out against the mafia, and some of them have been offed as a result. So generally speaking, it takes an extraordinarily courageous person to speak out and take on the mafia. I would think the Pope is in a position to do that. I think, granted, there have been assassinations attempts on popes, but I'm so glad he did this. And as it turns out, before he became Pope, he wrote a booklet in 2005 when he was the Archbishop in Buenos Aires. And he, in the booklet, talked about the evils of corruption and organized crime, and maybe specifically the mafia. I'm not quite clear about that. So the guy who covered this thing for the BBC said that the church itself, the big church, has often been accused by anti-mafia activists of not doing anywhere near enough to confront the gangsters and the killers. And here, this Pope, at least, started, maybe, made an effort, kinda. Okay, tell you what, I can do this, because I love this story, too. And this has to do with calling all Catholics. So in Buffalo, New York, yesterday, at St. John Canty, which is an old church in an old neighborhood. And that church is one of these big old churches that can hold 1,500 worshipers at a time. But like so many Catholic churches in that once were the center of huge Catholic neighborhoods, it now sits somewhat dilapidated and very lonely because maybe 70, at most 70 people might show up there for a pretty important mass, like for Christmas or something. And so what happened this Sunday is that a Buffalo mass mob showed up. And this is something that came out of a guy in Buffalo. And this is the third mass mob that they've done. And what they do is they pick some old Catholic church in some old neighborhood that only has a few white and blue-haired old ladies sitting there. And you bring in hundreds and hundreds of vitality again into that building and into that mass, just to make everybody, for at least one moment, get that feeling again of how it used to be. That's all it's about. It's about nostalgia in a way, but it's also an act of generosity. And so it's like a flash mob, only it's a mass mob. So all they're trying to do is just, as I said, for one morning, for one mass, erase all the decades, make it like the 60s or the 70s again, with the pews full and the collection baskets full. And all this, of course, is organized on Facebook and Twitter. And they put out they just put out the invitation and tell people what the next church is and when and where to show up. The church that they went to on Sunday is so hard up that, if they didn't sell thousands upon thousands of pierogies, which the old ladies there, make, they wouldn't be able to keep the lights on. That's how they pay their utility bills. And this is a new idea. It's not even a month old, but it is already spread because it's so wonderful to Philadelphia, to Cleveland, to Rochester, to New Orleans, and to New York City. And I want one of you guys, one of you Catholics, to get it going here in Pittsburgh. It's just a wonderful kind of energizing, kind of generous, kind of altruistic, kind of nice thing to do. So let's get Pittsburgh in this mass mob movement. I love the idea. I wish someone would do the same for some of the dying synagogues around, including the only one in my hometown. Be a great idea. I wonder, though, when it's all over, if people just feel sad. Maybe it's not a good idea. I don't know. Oh, remember how it used to be. I don't know. I mean, they admit that it's not going to turn things around or anything, but it's just, I don't know. It's very active nostalgia. I got to get a second break in here. I'll be back.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
BergBargains.com is your best bet for great deals in the Berg. Log on today for exclusive bargains from your favorite local restaurants like Blue Line Grill, Dell's, Ibiza, and Verde. Plus discounts on tickets to Dan St. Germain at the Improv. BergBargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains. BergBargains.com.
I didn't know about chronic obstructive pulmonary disease until I took the wheel and lent my support to Drive for COPD. Help Americans take action against this leading cause of death by logging on to driveforcopd.org to learn more. I'm Nancy Cartwright, the voice of Bart Simpson, and I drive for COPD.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
Alrighty. So, okay, getting to the big stories. It looks like it is. Does somebody, Jess, will you check breaking news about the plane? Because there was supposed to be a major announcement at 10. Just want to pass it on to you. I mean, maybe they found that wreckage, they Maybe they got it and they know it's part of the plane. And then at least I don't know. And that horror of a mudslide in Washington, right? Yeah, north of Seattle. That's a horrific story. I mean, the thought that they could hear people screaming for help from under all that mud and they couldn't get to them. Little baby in critical condition, old people in critical condition, other people gone. I guess the death toll's now up to 8. Bound to go higher. And then, are you seeing anything? Okay. And the other story, Ukraine and Russia. I mean, I kept sort of batting. All lives are lost.
Went down
okay.
over the southern Indian
yeah.
Ocean.
Okay, so they have confirmed. They do know that is wreckage.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, there's some closure there a little bit. Okay, they're not alive on some island. They're not... And they do know the general location, southern Indian Ocean, exactly where they have been looking lately. All lives lost. Okay. I don't know if they'll ever be able to get the plane, but it'll remain a mystery as to what the hell happened. But I'm sticking with catastrophic kind of. I don't think hijacked. I don't think anything. I think something mechanical or something like that. That's what I'm thinking. Or some gas that took everybody out. That's what I'm saying. Idle speculation on my part. So anyway, the Ukraine, and I've been saying, who gives a damn? I don't care. I understand why Russia wants it. On the other hand, I don't care. And I don't see what the United States, everybody's looking at us like, Obama. Hey, that's Europe. Let the friggin' Europeans deal with it. And I do mean that. Enough already. These are major countries, major states. That's their territory. They take the lead, they do it. This is not Obama. It's not. Yes, there are implications for us. But for God's sake, could we stop treating the Europeans like they're some kind of, like little stepchildren that can't function on their own? One of the reasons, they all have these puny little armies now because they just assume that if they need muscle, we'll do it. I'm sick of that. Let's us reduce our defense budget and tell Germany and France and Italy and all the rest of them to build their defenses up a little bit and stop relying on us. Seriously, sick of it. I don't think there's any doubt that Vladimir Putin has dreams. I think he would love to gobble up all of Ukraine, and then once he had that, he already took Georgia, right? Then he'll take Ukraine, and he'll take... he wants the Soviet Union back. That was really not that long ago, guys. 91, when it came apart, I think. So, to generations of Russians, this is a humiliation and a failure that you don't just come to, okay, well, we'll come to terms with that. No. Obviously they haven't. The psychology here is huge. And fine. I understand that. It does make Russia under a Putin somewhat dangerous, without a doubt. But again, my advice would be Germany take the lead and get Poland and all these others on board and take care of your own business. It's in your backyard, okay? I mean, if all of a sudden, well, we need to do the analogies. The Americans have more than enough on their plate, much of it put there by themselves and by their foolhardy foreign policy under Bush. And and this idea that Obama's looking weak. What the hell are we supposed to do? Huh? You want to get all military? Boy, what is it with some of these Republicans? I mean, they just want to play war all the time. All the time. It's so infantile. So anyway, 3 presidents have had to deal with this Putin. Clinton had to deal with him. W had to deal with him. And Obama had to deal with him, has to deal with him. Although Obama got Medvedev for a while, who was perfectly reasonable. So, you recall how George W., when he first met Putin, what he said? I'll remind you if you've forgotten. I have the quote right here. I looked the man in the eye. I found him to be very straightforward and trustworthy. We had a very good dialogue. I was able to get a sense of his soul. That's what George W. Bush said about Putin. I can't imagine anybody other than like Helen Keller looking into Putin's eyes and thinking you could see his soul and that he was trustworthy. Good God. Here's one place where George probably should have deferred to Dick Cheney, really. Because Cheney was asked what he thinks when he sees Putin, and Cheney said the following: I think KGB, KGB, KGB. I think that's one of the few times I agree with something Cheney said. That's what I think, too. KGB, KGB, KGB. But, after Bush first said that he looked in his eyes and all that kind of stuff, he did decide later that he hadn't been, obviously, really astute that day. And so later he said, 5 years later, he said, Putin, it's like arguing with an 8th grader with his facts wrong. Okay. Now, I got a few more quotes for you here, how people have said. Oh, Robert Gates, who was W's defense secretary there for a while, did say about Putin's eyes, he didn't have, George looked in his eyes and saw trust and his soul. Robert Gates said, I looked into Putin's eyes, and just as I expected, what I saw was a stone-cold killer. I think that's what I'd see, too. That's why I'm agreeing with Cheney, KGB, 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 and Gates. Stone-cold killer. And a little unsettling is, Merkel telling Obama just a few weeks ago that she spoke to Putin and thought he was in another world, literally, sort of out of his mind. And others have said similar things. But I think what the world has to deal with is that Russia now has a leader who is like so many Russian leaders of the past. He's an unabashed autocrat, an unabashed nationalist, He's got a chip on his shoulder of extraordinary proportion. And he wants the glory years back. So his taking of Crimea, I understand when people think this could just be the start. This guy needs to be watched. But all I'm saying is, let the Europeans do it. We can urge them on, offer some help if they'd like it, but that would be it. So Putin's dealing with the past. I mean, and he wants it back. He wants it back. That's how I see it. And, you're not going to go to war with Russia. So we don't want to get all military on him. Will somebody please tell McCain and Graham and all those other nutcases? Ray writes on mass mobs, Lynn, the Diocese of Pittsburgh has more parishes than the Diocese of Paris. Well, of course it does, because we got more little bailiwicks around here than they have we probably have more bona fide governmental entities in Allegheny County than they do in all of France. I mean, seriously, we're nuts around here. People like little teeny weeny fiefdoms, and then they don't want to give them up. The Diocese of Pittsburgh has more parishes than the Diocese of Paris. All these churches are a testimony to the parochial xenophobia of the ethnic cultures that founded the neighborhoods. Well, I wouldn't be that negative about it, personally, because when those immigrants came over and the Poles went here and the Slovaks there, and the Slovaks from this little town here, and the Italians there. I understand how they wanted to worship together as they worship. That makes perfect sense. But as things, changed and people moved away, to hold on to these little, it's just not reasonable, which is what I guess the church as a governing entity has got to deal with it. But I don't want to, it might be parochial xenophobia now or just pride in heritage, but I think then it was just a way to adjust slowly to a new world, those immigrant parishes. Because, it makes perfect sense. Everybody, when they're in a new place, likes a touchstone that feels somewhat familiar, and that would be a church that operates like the church you left. Ray writes, when I was young, there were 10 churches in Lawrenceville from 16th to 62nd Street. Now 3 are in use, and soon probably to be just 1. Yeah, there's a lot of excess capacity. There's no doubt about that. But so, these flash mobs these flash masses are really just about giving these people just a memory. Again, remember what it was like when there were enough bodies in here that it sounded like this and it felt like this, and it took so long to do communion. You remember that? I think. I like the idea. I think it's a sweet idea because, right, you'd have to be as delusional as Vladimir Putin to think that you could, retrace your steps and go back and recapture what was, because it's gone. It is gone. Okay, I think that's it for me. I'm off to court again. I am fighting my second parking ticket. And I was victorious last time. And I intend to be victorious this time because it was their faulty equipment, not my refusal to pay. Oh, I'm just getting warmed up. It's going to be like Perry Mason. I wish you could be there. I really wish you could be there. I'll tell you about it tomorrow. You have a good day.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.